Coming up next.
That victim mentality. So many people go through that. I see it every day in the emergency department. But you take those punches and you get up every single time and you go straight back at it and again and again. And they cannot break you. You have to have that mentality that no matter what people do to me, I can't control other people. There are evil, nasty, horrible people out there in the world. I can't control what they do. I can control how I act to it. Act and react to that. It will not change me. I will not compromise my integrity for a single penny. 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago now, I owned a freestanding emergency department in Texas, and I had 10% ownership. We're doing fantastic. It's making crazy money. The CEO was embezzling money. There was Medicare violations. They were flat out just stealing. They at one point just stole $650,000 out of the bank account just to say, "Oh, you owed me for back management expenses." I filed a lawsuit in federal courts to stop him from bankrupting the company. Just an evil, evil dude. COVID hit. Couldn't get a court date. He threatened my family. I literally moved my family to Australia for a year to get away from the guy. I'm boarded in Australasia. And just learned a very important lesson. He had offered me a $3.4 million bribe first. He said, "Hey, Josh, here's $3.4 million. Why don't you withdraw your complaints to the FBI, the Texas Department of Insurance, and just walk away. Here's the canned statement that you're going to say, 'Oh, I just want to step away and spend time with my family.'" And I told him to
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast, where the chains of fixing and striving are broken and joy is rediscovered in Christ. You are here because you know there's more for you, a life beyond addiction's chaos, rooted in God's peace and promises. This is the place where Christian women like you learn to release the weight of fixing and striving and instead lean into God's strength to create a home filled with love, grace, and hope. She is clothed with strength and dignity. Proverbs 31:25. That's you. You may not feel like it yet, but you are stronger than you know. And God has so much more for you than carrying someone else's addiction. Here, we'll uncover how to set healthy boundaries with love and a little humor. Find resilience and grace in the messy moments of life. Celebrate small victories and embrace joy like never before. Lean into God's promises for restoration and strength because He's not done with your story or your loved ones. This is your invitation to rise up, embrace your worth in God's kingdom, and take back what's been stolen by addiction, your peace, your joy, your future. Your faith is the foundation and your boundaries are the bridge, and God's truth is your guide. I'm Tanya Gioia, your host and fellow traveler on this journey through the chaos of addiction. I'm here to cheer you on, equip you with tools that work, and share the truth that's changed my life. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Together, we'll uncover how to create safe, loving space for healing, starting with your own heart and home. By setting boundaries, trusting God's plan, and embracing His truth, you can reclaim your joy, your peace, and your family's future. Then you will be able to stand firm for your family and legacy as a kingdom daughter, a woman who can laugh at the days to come, knowing her identity is secure in Christ. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and get comfortable. Let's walk this journey together. We're about to take back what's been stolen, create a safe, healing space for you and your family, and rediscover the joy God has waiting for you. Welcome to the Faith Over Addiction podcast. I'm Tanya Gioia, your host, and I have the honor of being with Dr. Josh McConkey, and he has so many titles. I'm going to allow him to give you some of that background, but one of the things I want to give you is that he's also an author in his limited spare time. He wrote a book called Be the Weight Behind the Spear. It's about being in your community and serving your community and yourself. And a children's book, The Heart of a Leader, which you can see behind him. So, Dr. Josh, give us a little bit of your background on what formed you and what formed your faith as well.
So I grew up in a very small town in rural Nebraska, and my family, I was the first one to go to college. So my whole family was railroaders. My
Mhm.
father, my grandfather, my great grandfather. I broke the mold and went into medicine. And then so a lot of my siblings have kind of followed. We have like nurses and my stepmom was a nurse. So I carry a lot of titles. I stay very busy, as an emergency doctor. I was a Duke professor, military commander and colonel in the reserves, and now a Pulitzer Prize nominated author. But that doesn't define me. The titles that really matter to me are husband, father, and Christian. So that's what I'm about, and that's what motivates me.
Awesome. Now, tell us a little bit about how you came to write these books and how you came to say, hey, it's not just about doing, it's also about this beingness.
So, it really started kind of the fallout from COVID. As an emergency physician, I see the mental health crisis that's just consuming a large part of our country and a very large part of the younger generation. So it just turns out when you shut down an entire group of kids from their church and their community and their school, it's not good for their development. And it doesn't do any good to pass the blame. We have to fix the problem. So, as an emergency doctor, I see all that anxiety and the depression and the suicide. And as a military commander, those same kids are now joining the military, and man, it is really difficult. They lack just the accountability and resilience, just simple resiliency skills. And I figured I have to do something because at 20 years old, it's really difficult to teach those skills. It's not that it can't be done, but it's lots of yelling, it's lots of push-ups. So the initial book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear, was my call to action for people to engage their communities because that's the best resource that we have in the country. It's people, teachers, coaches, volunteers, and families. That's what sets us apart. And then I realized, you know what? It's way easier if we teach these kids at 5 years old. So we started a children's book series, the Be the Weight series, and the first book is behind me here, The Heart of a Leader. So
So tell us a little bit about so that moms can recognize this because as parents we all live through it. We live through it as a country. What are the things that are showing up? You spoke just a little bit about it, about resilience, about accountability. How does that look like in the home? What does a mom need to be doing right now?
So the first thing you're going to notice is the kids are buried into their cell phones and their iPhones. And when they communicate, they don't make eye contact. That's not everybody. I have 3 kids of my own. I've tried to teach them to overcome those issues. And so we don't have social media in our household. I mean, I certainly have some for my book tour and a lot of other things I'm doing in the public space with news and those things and TV. But for my children, social media is not a good thing. So if you are seeing your children on social media, that's a family decision. That's something you need to talk about with your children. And some parents may be comfortable with that. Some parents are not comfortable with that. But if I just give you some simple facts. So under the age of 16, possibly even under the age of 18, if you're giving your children unfettered access, like unsupervised access to social media, you're increasing the risk for suicide. Factual, 100%, not debatable. So just, those are some things that you just need to talk about and find that happy medium, whatever your comfort level is for your children, because every family is different.
Mm.
I'm not a fan of the governments getting involved and banning those. I think those need to be parental decisions in your household. So that's something that's really important. So the number one thing you can focus on is social media.
Just to give you our example, I feel like we're a generation in a way that didn't know any better.
Okay.
And we held off as long as we could. And then when the pressure came in, we put the governor on it, the like Google Family or something like that, so we could see what was going on. But these kids are swift. I mean, they
Yeah,
can
yeah.
outsmart those pieces. So if you're already there, what's the discussion, especially as they're later teens, as they're moving into adulthood, those types of things, maybe 13 on up? What's the discussion you can begin to have?
So the things that you'll see, a large percentage, like almost 70% of children on social media under age 16 have encountered content that's not good for them. You know, whether it's sexually explicit or whether there's grooming behaviors in there. There's just a lot of dangers and pitfalls. And that's not even talking about the vast majority of them. They get like the cyberbullying.
Mm,
And, I graduated high school in the 90s. And, when you bullied someone, I actually was a really small kid. I was a wrestler. I got bullied a fair amount until I was finally able to stand up for myself. But they had to punch you. They had to hit you. They had to get up in your face. It's a totally different world. You can be 24/7 bullied and just on social media, on your Facebook and TikTok. And I mean, it's different. I don't really quite understand that actually, because but it's something I see a lot as an emergency physician. And the one thing I'll tell parents, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, okay? Their perception is their reality, just period. So whether it's like, well, you got to get punched in the nose to get bullied, whether you think it's bullying, the cyberbullying or not, that's their life, that's their reality, that's what they know. So we have to find a way to get to them and communicate and bridge that gap. So there's clearly a generational gap between my kids and myself. I'm sure it's like
mhm,
that with most generations.
mhm.
So getting in there and like, well, back in my day, those stories, those aren't helpful.
Yeah.
It just makes you look like the old person in the room that is clueless. And I'm not saying I'm not, but it just as an emergency physician, this is what I deal with every day. Social work, mental health resources. You have to find a way through to communicate to them those dangers. And sometimes it just comes into just taking away the phone, period, because the technology is out there. These kids are so sharp that they're going to find a way around anything you can throw up there.
Mhm.
For me, when I grew up, my dad would not let us watch Beavis and Butthead or The Simpsons. Like, just not going to have my dad shut off cable. Like, we had no cable. You're not going to watch it. So I just went over to my friend's house and watched it.
Yes.
You're not going to stop them. So, you have to have those discussions and teach them safely how, don't give out any information on social media. Roblox and some of these games that are played online are notorious for all types of grooming behavior and dangers. It has to be very, very well supervised. So just teaching them hey, don't talk with strangers. Have a group of friends that you know and can verify. Are they friends from school and maybe your cousins from somewhere else in the country? You cannot give information out online. It's just too dangerous. They're 100% lying. All right. It's not a 12-year-old. It's some
Mhm.
freaky 50-year-old guy that just has ill intentions. So I just see a lot of the fallout for that and a lot of dangers.
Yes. Now you've used a word called grooming behaviors. Can you explain what that is?
So their whole persona is not real. So they'll encounter someone online in a gaming system or a chat room or on some type of social media, like, hey, I want to be your friend. I'm an 11-year-old. My name is Lisa. And they just so they develop a trust. And
Mm,
then over weeks or months, they start asking a little bit more encroaching questions. It's never going to be overt. It's always sneaky. And,
mhm,
to someone who hasn't been taught the appropriate use of social media and just you have to put up some of these barriers and walls. They're gonna just believe, hey, this is an 11-year-old friend of mine, and oh yeah, sure, we should really get together sometime. I go to this school. This is where I live. Like, danger, danger. Oh my goodness, because it's some creepy 50-year-old pedophile out there who's going to do something very, very bad.
mm,
And it's just story after story. When you talk with law enforcement, I engage with them on a daily basis. They're always in the emergency department. And when I see these mental health issues, the police generally are the ones that bring in some of these kids and or the
mhm,
parents. And, we get social work and law enforcement involved. But I've seen some of this and the stories are horrific. You just can't even believe that there's that type of evil individuals out there. Uh,
mhm.
it's unfortunately that's just reality. There are some really, really bad people out there.
Yeah. That's what, as I got older, you go through the monster stage of, are there monsters under my bed? Are there monsters under this? And it's that deep breath and saying, there aren't monsters in that sense.
there are people who behave in
Yeah,
monstrous ways, and
unfortunately.
how do we help you walk through that differently? So what are the positive things we can be inputting into our kids through the heart of a leader, being in our community? What are the things, maybe you're not at the stage, or maybe you're not willing to pull them off social media, but just like increasing your vegetables over will help decrease the carb load and all those types of things. What can we do to connect?
Best thing you can do is get involved. Face to face interactions. All right. Because these kids' lives are on social media. Social media will not save them. It has to
Mm,
be you. The best resource we have in this country, it's people. So teachers, coaches, volunteers, families, that is what makes America special. So we take that resource and you get involved. You volunteer in your church or your school or go coach little league, t-ball, soccer, volleyball. Get out there. You have to just you be that mentor and that face-to-face interaction. You think it's not powerful. Like, I don't know anything about volleyball. How am I supposed to coach volleyball? Just get out there and do it. Just being present, them seeing an adult, a leader in their community in whatever capacity that you lead, because you are a leader. You don't realize it, but you are. And so that, this book, The Heart of a Leader, just teaches those basics. You don't have to be the fastest and the strongest. Like, when I was in high school, I wrestled at 119 pounds as a freshman and sophomore. I was tiny. It's not about being the biggest and the fastest or the strongest. It's being present. Do you care about other people? Do you show that interest? And you just lead by example. And I got picked on a bit when I was young in high school, but if we fast forward here 30 years later, here I'm a colonel in the Air Force Reserves, military commander, author. You can do some great things. So you have to get involved, though. It has to be face to face.
give us your definition of resilience, and how often we don't show our kids when we're being resilient. We come in and we say we're so stressed out, blah, 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 blah. But we don't say, I did this and this and this. How do you help parents show resilience?
You take those punches that life gives you. Life is not fair. So the first thing you teach your kids is like, listen, life is not fair. Don't ever be that victim. That victim mentality. So many people go through that. I see it every day in the emergency department. But you take those punches and you get up every single time and you go straight back at it, and again and again, and they cannot break you. You have to have that mentality that no matter what people do to me, I can't control other people. There are evil, nasty, horrible people out there in the world. I can't control what they do. I can control how I act to it, act and react to that. It will not change me. I will not compromise my integrity for a single penny. 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago now, I owned a freestanding emergency department in Texas, and I
Mm,
had 10% ownership. We're doing fantastic. It's making crazy money. The CEO was embezzling money. There was Medicare violations. They were flat out just stealing. They at one point just stole $650,000 out of the bank account just to say, "Oh, you owed me for back management expenses." I filed a lawsuit in federal courts to stop him from bankrupting the company. Just an evil, evil dude. COVID hit. Couldn't get a court date. He threatened
mhm,
my family. I literally moved my family to Australia for a year to get away from the guy. I'm boarded in Australasia, and
mhm,
just learned a very important lesson. He had offered me a $3.4 million bribe first. He said, "Hey, Josh, here's $3.4 million. Why don't you withdraw your complaints to the FBI, the Texas Department of Insurance, and just walk away? Here's the canned statement that you're going to say, 'Oh, I just want to step away and spend time with my family.'" And I told him to shove it right up his rear end.
mm,
And he was very, very angry because I find out now, I mean, he'd done this to several other people over many years, in other businesses. He always gives them the non-disclosure agreement, gives them a couple million bucks, whatever, and they just walk away. Well, he found the one dude that would not take $3.4 million.
mm,
dollars.
mhm,
And I'm like, listen, I am a colonel in the United States Air Force. I will not compromise my integrity for a penny. You shove it up your rear end. I have a national security clearance. I got lots of things that I'm doing, professionally in the military as a reservist, and just this is not going to work for me. So at the end of the day, I lost $5 million. I had to
oh,
move my family to Australia for a year. I thought he would end up in jail, but with COVID, the FBI was like, listen, this is kind of a gray area and the world is destroyed right now. We don't have time. We're sorry, we're not going to press charges. I mean, I have the email. I'm like, oh, this is
Mm,
horrible. But you know
mm,
what? Yeah. And my kids saw that. And I'm like, you know what? There's no victim here. I knew exactly what I was doing. I told him to shove it up his rear end. I did the right thing, lost a bunch of money, but you can't change me. I will not
mm,
compromise my integrity for a penny. And then
mhm,
4 years later, I won the North Carolina Educational Lottery. So I mean, as crazy as it is, you do the right thing, have faith. God was just testing me. He wanted to see, you know what? If I give this guy $3 million, will he kind of compromise who he is? And
yep.
and I didn't fold, and it was hard. I mean, all the court. I spent $250,000 in legal bills in less than a year, and just got destroyed and lost $5 million. That was it.
Mm,
Um, but 4 years later, that karma, he's like, you know what? I was testing you. You passed. And so
mhm,
I was dropping off my son Gabriel at gymnastics, and there's a gas station. And I just filled up with gas. I see a picture in the window there, and this is the pick five, like pick five numbers, the Cash Five lottery in North Carolina. And I'm like, well, I should probably get a ticket. And I actually bought some online. Didn't win the first night, and I rolled the tickets over. And on Friday morning, I get this crazy email that says, log in and we need your social security number. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's total scam,
no.
total scam. No
Yeah.
way. But it said it was the lottery. I'm like, well, that's wild. I logged in, to the online account, and it was a $1.5 million jackpot. I was like, whoa, what? And I called my wife in. I was like, Elsa, come look at this. I think we won the lottery. She's like, no way. It's just crazy. We're trying to get the kids ready for school. They're yelling and screaming, brush your teeth, get your lunch ready. We got to get out the door. And so I filled out the information. An hour later, I got another email. They're like, hey, drive into Raleigh, pick up your check. I'm like, no way. This is insane. And so I get there, and there's glass, and I pull
Mhm.
up to I walk in the door, and they got to fill out this little pink sheet. And then she turns around and picks up a little red bat phone. She's like, hey, the online lottery winner's here. I'm like, whoa, are you saying this is real? This is real? Like, oh, this is unbelievable. And so, like, long story short, it was a great sum of money. I had to split it with somebody. Somebody else had the same numbers, so I didn't get the whole 1.5. But just you do the right thing, and God will take care of you. Just stay the course. You can't change what other people do, but you can. You can control yourself. You can't control those evil people.
Well, you're talking about something that we talk about often is your character, your integrity. And when you are supporting someone in addiction, that's a very interesting crisis to love,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, and
Christ never compromises his boundaries
correct.
to love somebody. So, setting that up and knowing your character, your integrity, if you are struggling to hold it, what's the thought process? You know that you need to input it in your children, but you're struggling to hold it. It sounds like you were forged in a lot of fire.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and it's, my father, and just hardworking blue collar guy. I've never seen him lie or cheat. I mean, he just that blue collar grinding out every single day. And that was just a good example for me. I kind of broke the mold, went away to college, went to med school, and joined the military, and have seen the world, all kinds of crazy things. But, you know, your integrity is like the most important thing out there, because you see the money changes so many people. I saw it change my business partners.
Hmm.
It just, these are people I had known for over 15 years, and just to see them just completely break, lose all their integrity, and just make some really, really poor decisions just for money. That's, hey, good for you. Everyone's got their own families to take care of, and they felt those couple millions of bucks were, going to be life changing for them. But everybody knows who they are now. Like your personal integrity is just something that once you let that go, you can't get that back. You see it in politics and business. I see it in medicine. It's Something when you see those individuals going through those really tough struggles, I see the domestic violence and pediatric, abuse issues, and have to deal with social work and child protective services. Like that's just part of being an emergency doctor. And it makes me feel very fortunate, that I was raised in a pretty strong household. My dad, it was a little abusive growing up, and something I had to certainly deal with myself. And I don't discipline my children that way, but it was a different time as well.
Mm,
But just what a lot of women struggle with, when you just realize, I think the one thing to get across here is the emergency department is a safe space for you. So
mm.
regardless of what you're going through, I don't care where you're from, what you've done, whether you have drug issues or addiction issues or whatever situation you have yourself in, when you need that help, you can go to any emergency department. Like we are the catch-all. I'm very proud to be that safety net for America. Whether you have insurance or not, whether you can pay or not, there is a safe place for you. You can come to emergency department. We have access to mental health resources, social work, child protective services, law enforcement, anything you need when you're ready. Or maybe you think you're not ready, but just want to reach out to somebody. We're there for you.
That's a great piece of information. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you're the epicenter. So everything can spider out from you. If they need
Yes.
some other type of service, you have access to all those things. And there's no reason to wait.
No.
That care is available. So what a wonderful piece of information that you're bringing for us today. As you step into this, do you have a favorite scripture? Do you have a meditation routine? How do you prepare yourself
You
to
know,
be in an environment that is a struggle?
there's just the one story that I'll tell people is my first pediatric code, and I watched my first baby die.
Mm,
It was a SIDS death, and it was so hard. I just you study so much, and you try to have yourself in situations. So like the first lesson is, um, make sure that you do everything you can to be successful, and that God will work through you. So it's you see some of these doctors with God complexes, and they think it's all about them. It's really bizarre. I've seen miracles. I've seen people die every single way you possibly can, and I can study as hard as I want and do all the right things, but if God wants to take somebody, He's still going to take them. And that lesson was so hard. So this pediatric death, it was a SIDS death, and this father just runs into the emergency department. He's got a limp baby. I mean, it was literally just a couple of weeks old, and you immediately snap into emergency mode. I was a student. It was before I started residency, and we're doing central lines and intubation. The attending physician is just kind of supervising. We're just doing our thing, and we worked it for an hour. The baby was clearly dead before I got there, but you do everything you possibly can, and you go out to talk to the family. And the mother was an active duty soldier, and she comes
mm.
running into the emergency department because she had got the phone call. She's just like, "Where's my baby? Where's my baby?" And I just wanted to collapse. I mean, we're crying. The nursing staff is crying. I mean, the family. You just it's the most horrific thing you can imagine. And I didn't know how to really deal with all this. And I went home. I was actually at my mom's house for that rotation, and I just had a monster headache. I don't get headaches. I've never had migraine headaches except that one time. My head felt like it was going to explode, and I just went for a run. I exhausted myself. You just run until you want to throw up. And I sat down at Browns Point outside of Tacoma, and just sat there, and I just prayed and I meditated. And I'm just like, God, I don't know if I can do this. This is horrific. And once you just decide to hand things over, to Christ and put that faith in Him, I promise you, I will do everything I can. I read and study and lived in libraries for just hours and hours for years and years. Like 15 years of my life have been dedicated to education. You know, He has a plan, and just have that faith, because I've seen some crazy miracles. I've seen people live that just there was no way that can happen. And that was God. So, you put your faith in Christ and just make sure that you're prepared, and he'll get you through that. So, same thing in Iraq. I never would have survived Iraq without my faith.
Mm, mm. Dr. Josh, thank you so much for being here today. You have such a wealth of things to offer, especially it's just a blessing to have the emergency room message that is a safe place to show up. Tell us where we can find you online. What I'm assuming your books are sold at all booksellers
Yes.
like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those places.
Yeah. Probably the easiest is Amazon, but Be the Weight Behind the Spear is at Amazon. We've got the audiobook and ebook for that first book as well, but
Mhm.
Amazon.com. And if you go to weightbehindthespear.com, WEIGHT, weightbehindthespear.com, you can learn more about me, the books, and we have a nonprofit organization, the Weight Behind the Spear Foundation. And on social media, on Instagram, it's Josh McConkey, MD, and X is McConkey 007.
All right. McConkey 007.
Yeah,
I love
I'm a
it.
James Bond fan.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. Such important information you had to share. And I know this will be a blessing to many, many people. Thank you again.
Thank you. God bless.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Faith Over Addiction podcast. Remember, nothing changes until something changes. Today is your day to step out in faith and make a difference. You are a daughter of the King, a woman who can spark incredible ripple effects of hope and healing, not just in your own life, but in your family, your community, and God's kingdom. If this episode encouraged you, bless someone else by sharing it. Send it to a friend who needs a little hope, or post it on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And hey, if you're ready to reclaim your God-given identity and create a safe, loving space for yourself and those you care about, let's talk. Book a quick call with me today, and I'd love to hear your story and help you take the next step. Oh, and don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, search for Faith Over Addiction, and leave me a review. Your feedback not only makes my day, but helps other women find this podcast and step into freedom too. You are strong, you are loved, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Until next time, keep walking boldly into the life God has for you.